Good time of day to all of you, my chess friends. This is Grandmaster Alex Yermolinsky. Welcome back. Whatever Russian Schoolboy Knows live. Yeah. Okay. As usual with my live shows, it's basically entirely up to you. Good time of day to all of you, my chess friends. This is Grandmaster Alex Yermolinsky. Welcome back. Whatever Russian... Yeah, it's entirely up to you which direction we go, how fast we go, how often we stop, how often we get off the beaten track and go off on a tangent. So basically, interactive show as it is. So I would like to see you participating. So give me a shout when you're there and set the course. In the meantime, of course, I am prepared to offer you a subject. The subject is kind of part of a larger question, a future of chess. In this case, the future of Russian chess. And switching back to this kid, right, 18 years old, Grigory Aparin, just won the Russian Championship, but not the Premier League. That is, he only qualified for what they call Russian Higher League, which is a large Swiss of some, I assume, 70 or something grandmasters participating. And yeah, so we'll talk about this kid. I got some games of his. In the meantime, I'm fielding first question. Very interesting field in Bilbao this year. Yeah. See, the Bilbao tournament. I mean, obviously Spain, in the current economic climate, it's no longer a chess capital of the world. Gone are the days when Linares was the world championship of tournaments and Garry Kasparov was always there, lavishing praise on the chief organizer, the owner of a supermarket chain over there, Senor Luis Rentero, who passed away, by the way, a year or two ago. And they also had Dos Hermanas and Madrid, when yours truly got to play in Spain. And no, things are different now. Yet, I mean, there is a chess tradition over there. And when you say, who is from Spain? Are there any, top players, world champions? Well, yeah, they may not be Spanish names, but they're famous names in the chess world. Anand. Yeah. Okay, good to have you here. Zealandsen. Yeah, Anand lives, I don't know if he lives in Bilbao. I know that Topalov used to live in Spain. It's entirely possible that he still lives there. Alexei Shirov, I know, moved out of Spain. And he is in back in Latvia, his home country. But, well, yeah, the chess players, they follow a trail of money. Their nose, of course, is very much on the trail. And no, currently there just isn't a whole lot of going on in Spain. But the Bilbao tournament, yeah. Last year, I don't know, do you remember last year's event in Bilbao? I heard somewhere that Wesley So won it. Who else was there and how many players were there? I mean, I don't even remember. Just a few years ago, probably sort of a last effort to keep Spain on a chess map was a combined effort of Silvio Danailov and remember the Sofia rules, the tournament in Sofia, and they had the Grand Slam. I mean, I don't know, they're just so big names, but I mean, these guys are trying to outdo each other with big names. Like we have the World Open in Philadelphia, right? And some California guys who felt it's too expensive for our players to travel to the East Coast. We're gonna have our tournament the same 4th of July weekend, and yeah, we're gonna call it. Yeah, we're gonna call it. Yeah, how are we gonna call it? We're gonna call it the Universe Open. Okay, they got one up on them. Yeah. Okay, over there, Grand Slam versus Grand Chess Tour. The word grand is there. Grand this and grand that. Yeah. But I gotta give it to them in Bilbao this year. Well, they somehow managed to get a very good field. Abbreviated field. But come to think of that, 6 players, but it gives you double round robin. They'll play each other twice. So as far as number of rounds, we've got 10 rounds instead of usual 9. And they managed to get Carlsen and Karyakin in the same tournament. One and only tournament. Aside of the Chess Olympiad, but in Chess Olympiad, it has to be certain luck of draw to have the Russians play in Norway, and then Kramnik has to, I guess, take a bye. Because I think Kramnik's gonna be number 1. Board 1 in Russian team. So it's entirely possible that Magnus and Sergey will meet twice, and that's their only meeting until the big match this fall. But it's not only just these two guys, right? The rest of the field in Bilbao is quite impressive. Oh, thank you. Wesley finished ahead of Anish. Oh, not a bad field, yeah. 5 points. Quite a split. Okay, so that's 3 points. Do they have 3 points for a win? I'm trying to figure out how the heck you score 8 points in that tournament. They must have played each other twice. 8 points out of 6 games. Win 2. And 2 draws. Win 1 maybe. And 5 draws. Yeah, that would make 8. Win 1 and make 5 draws. 3 for a win, 1 for a draw. Yeah. Okay, makes sense now. Yeah, it doesn't seem like, this was a whole lot of bloodshed in that last year's event. Yeah. Anyways, I was talking about, so other players. So we have Anish back, it's almost impossible to imagine a tournament these days without Anish Girin. He earned it, of course. Wesley So is invited back. And then, we have Hikaru Nakamura making his appearance over there. Having another go at Magnus Carlsen, maybe that's the tournament. And of course, instead of Ding Liren, another even younger and uber talented Chinese Grandmaster Wei. So great field it is. I mean, I don't know if the field could be made any better. Well, the absence of Maxim Asheva Graf, but he's busy playing in Dortmund. And Fabiana Caruana did for that, and Vladimir Kramnik. But Kramnik, honestly, I don't know. I think Kramnik, Anand, and Topalov, they're just a dead weight now. They're dragging down this year's Grand Chess Tour. At least that was the impression when they played Rapid and Blitz. The guys were really non-factor in the first 2 stages, in Paris and Leuven, Belgium. Anyway, Magnus will have encounters with both Grishuk and Karyakin. I don't know where he's gonna play Grishuk. I really don't know. What's Grishuk now? Grishuk is like number 15 in the world or something. And he's not currently in consideration to be invited anywhere. Honestly, Alexander hasn't played a lot. Made an appearance in Russian Team Championship. He's gonna travel to China and play in a 4-game match against Ding Liren. Yeah, that's Grishuk. But as far as Karyakin, the secret of beating Karyakin, for Magnus there's no secrets. If Magnus plays his best, he wins. But those of you soccer fans, you saw what happens, when a team, a world champion, doesn't play its best, it gets beat. Doesn't take much, right? probably before today's match between Germany and France, most of you thought that Germany has to be favorites, right? And they played the first half like they were favorites, but they let in a goal at the end of the first half on a silly, unnecessary penalty kick, unnecessary handball, and then they fell apart. Now, is it possible to fall apart like this in a chess match? Of course it's possible. No, obviously, it's questionable when people would say, oh, Magnus is so much better than anyone else and he can make up for a mistake or two. No, well, yeah, well, we'll see, but maybe. Maybe he won't make any mistakes in the beginning. It's entirely possible, just like Germany could, if they scored first and first half, they would probably be now winners by the count of 3-0 and preparing for Portugal. But no, they couldn't score first, and that's it. Yeah. In the meantime, alright, so behind all these guys, so no, well, yeah, I said this about Anand, Topalov, and Kramnik. Well, they're probably good. For sure, they're good for an occasional good game, and well, they're great players, and no, well, I'm not disrespecting them in no way, but on the other hand, I mean, how long they can keep their motivation and their drive? Well, they're still good enough to, I guess, rating-wise, particularly it applies now to Kramnik, because his rating is high up there. He's number 2 in the world. Does he play like number 2 in the world? Absolutely not. I think in reality quite a few guys that ahead of him. I believe Caruana and Nakamura and MVL and Giri, they're simply better players than Kramnik now. But, okay, maybe. But my real question is, who's behind these guys? Who is behind Nakamura, Caruana, MVL, and Giri? Alright, the Chinese guys. If they ever get invited regularly. They get occasional invitations. Alright, just say Ding Liren and Wei, the young Wei. By the way, he took a couple of steps backward, right? He was over 2700 almost 2 years ago, and went back and currently struggling to stay in the 2700 territory. And why is this happening? Kramnik needs to get lucky. Well, get lucky in how many games? No, I wouldn't say that Kramnik's been unlucky. No, it goes, comes and goes. And I just don't see it in Kramnik anymore. I think sometimes he's straining himself, just trying to. He quit playing main theoretical lines with white, so he has to create from move 1, and he's pretty good at that, So he's been mixing his knight f3 and g3 with e3 and b3 and all this stuff, but I don't know. No, anyways, I was thinking, well, new generation of players, need a generation of players, and right now, Wesley So I forgot to mention, of course, Wesley is there. So the youngest players now is Wesley and Anish. They're both 22 years old. Question goes to you. Who's the world champion under 20? Who's world junior champion now? You know how good world junior champions used to be? Okay, Fischer never won it because he never played in it. Spassky did. He was the inaugural world junior champion. Well, some others. Who's the world junior champion now? And how soon before we see this guy up there playing elite tournaments? Do you know the answer? Well, tell me if you do. Because I don't. Yeah, some names are there, I'm kind of thinking, okay, so who are the top players under 20? The Polish guy, Duda. Okay, probably 2650. So let's go, let's see if there's anyone stronger. Okay, Wei, but we talked about. Okay, great. So the Chinese guys, they have some guys in their early 20s. Yu Yangyi is not so bad. Even Li Chao is not an old guy anymore. He's probably 25. Yeah, but it makes you wonder, can a guy of Magnus Carlsen's age suddenly make a big step, and just elevate his game and challenge Magnus? I don't see this. Bill Lombardi. Well, yeah. No, I mean, I understand, not every world junior champion, but most of them became grandmasters, like Oscar Panna, the Argentine guy, and there were a bunch of, obviously, I'm sure Kasparov was there, and a whole bunch of Soviets, Belявsky, and Yusupov, I assume. But okay, well, it's just not enough room up there, for every and each of them to become world champion. But point is that most of the guys that we see, if not all of them, we see up there now, they made their mark in chess before age of 20, right? If not all of them. Even looking at old guys like, okay, Kramnik. Kramnik made his entrance Manila Chess Olympiad, 92. He was 17 years old. That is correct. Richard Rapport. I was waiting for that. Now, he had made huge strides, he's never been 2750. Now, he did make appearance a couple of tournaments where he dazzled with his unusual openings, b3 and so on. And honestly, I was not really that impressed, but maybe he had some growing up to do, and he did. In the meantime, what's going on in Russia? It's always been Russia, right? The chess talents from Russia. Where are they? I mean, it is like ridiculous that the top board for the Russian team is going to be Kramnik again. Now, Kramnik is the highest rated, of course, but I know also Kramnik would not play unless it would be board one. Okay. Well, probably he's not going to spoil the show. I mean, I don't see him playing too badly. He can make a lot of draws, but I mean, okay, he would, as they say, will cover board one. Now, with Karyakin, question is how motivated is Karyakin going to be on board two. And then they have Grishuk, whose shape is unknown. And then they have Tomaszewski and Nepomniachtchi. I don't know. They don't seem favorites to me. I actually fancy US team chances better at Olympiad. Yeah, they peak earlier too, and then... Alright. I'm not even asking, like, okay, to be there for 28 years, world champion, like Emmanuel Lasker or maybe Magnus Carlsen going to be, or Visha Anand. I mean, okay, have you a good 15 years, okay, how early you want to start? Do it Peter Leko style. Start well at 16, and play for 15 years on top level and then just drop out. It doesn't matter to me, right? It's more likely to people to repeat the Leko's curve rather than to be able to stick around like Anand and Kramnik and play well when they're 40 years old. Okay, anyway. In the meantime, Russia. So they have this kid Aparin, right? I don't know him at all. I mean, young player, 17 years old. Coached by somebody I know quite well, Grandmaster Sergei Shipov, the popular chess TV commentator. Yeah. And a pretty good coach on his own. He coached Daniil Dubov and some others too. And now Aparin. Alright, 3 of the key fragments over there. Now Aparin is playing white against Ivan Popov. He's a pretty good player. And I'm thinking here, right? White played this known line in English, G3 and B3. Well, this line sometimes brings white success. No, generally, I never thought it was a healthy line to play because you leave holes in your position, and white's position is full of holes, basically. Now, so Aparin is taking his chances, and that was, I believe, in round 3. And he pushed forward with d4. Alright, black went back. How's the white gonna handle this situation? He's got the bishop on b2, the knight on c3. I gotta give credit to the young player. He went d5 forward. Let me see if I have any analysis here. Yeah. Black goes knight c8. Okay, there comes the blockade on d6. You know, if you think about this position, you give black a couple of moves. Knight d6 and rook e8. Followed by the attack against c4 or bishop h6, possibly against e3. I think black is near winning. I mean, the structure in itself is really rotten for white. The pawn on d5, notwithstanding. I think Aparin realized that, so now, good school, I can sense it. Now, what's a positional player, right? Well, I mean, looking at this, it's a position. A positional player is not the guy, who always gets a quiet queen's gambit with pressure against opponent's backward pawn on the c-file. No, the positional player is the one who senses the needs of the position and answers them. Now, I would say here Aparin gets credit for what he'd done. He plays e4. Now, he exposes himself to various pins on the e5, right? Oh, I'll answer about Korchnoi. e4, so, yeah, of course. A dream move would be e5, but there is a pin coming up, and I don't know, queen e7 was a possibility, right? What is white going to do here? Rook e1, check, king. Queen e5. To me, black has excellent game here. Alright, so Aparin took a chance, Probably the whole opening thing was... I noticed, I looked at his games, well, he's trying to play modern chess, but what's modern chess? It's like do what Magnus does, right? Play all sorts of random openings, particularly with white, and not to worry if you don't have any advantage, and then somehow play and outplay the opponents. Easier said than done, right? Popov went rook e8. And now d6. Once again, good instincts. Now, in this situation, white obviously doesn't even have to calculate the consequences of d6. I mean, he simply has to play it. If he doesn't play it, then he's just gonna lose a pawn and probably lose the game. So he pushes forward. That's correct. What was prepared to queen d7? Your guess is as good as mine. Possibly queen g2. Maybe this. Yeah. I don't know. That would be interesting to see. I think queen d7 But black couldn't resist this check, right? Isn't that nice to cut across the d file, then you can take d6 and e4 is gonna fall. I mean, this looks forced, but the concept is actually impressive. It's difficult to find the next move Aparin played here. He played queen d2. Oh well. So not only he doesn't move the knight away, he's already down the exchange. He begs black to take this knight. And I thought if he does, then looks like white is winning. So the real threat is actually not mate. It's rather give check and then skewer and win the queen. And it's hard to keep the queen on to protect g7. For example, this line, I thought white is winning here. I don't know, maybe I don't want to take this pawn, it's silly. Let's just drive the king up. Yeah, that's it. The knight's overloaded. If black on a4, you let go of the queen. White wins. Clear. Okay. Let's take a break and talk about Viktor Korchnoi. Winston Smith is taken aback by my silence on Korchnoi's death. Out of all people. Of all people, me? Why would I want to talk about Korchnoi? I mean, I understand that I'm sort of a chess reporter and... but I don't know. Do you assume that I'm an admirer of Viktor Korchnoi as a chess player or a person? Then you're mistaken. I'm not his admirer. And, well, I figured since on a personal level, I don't have anything good to say about him, then I would be better off if I kept silent. As far as his chess games, they speak for themselves. So anybody who wants to look at them, they're annotated, there are books and all that. That's the answer. I know it was weeks ago. I kept silent then, and I'll keep silent now. Yeah, this queen d2. No, well, that's what started Aparin's winning streak. Nice move, nice find. I have a feeling that he really muscled this game, you know, kind of from move one. I don't know. I mean, it is hard to tell, but from little I know about Aparin's chess career, well, he didn't have a good tournament at the European Championship. So maybe there was a little bit of frustration. And frustration sometimes, I don't know, not frustration. Maybe he got mad a little bit at himself and responded well. Of course, if this game could have gone either way. And if it did, you know, there would be no winning streak and I wouldn't be talking about him. Alright, I'll briefly show you. Okay, all more or less clear. Queen g7 was played, knight. Yeah, the execution, I don't think the execution was proper here, right? Precise, I mean to say. Alright, so he didn't want to play. There is this line, right? Knight d5, and then here, and then you take. Looks good, because you come into f6, but there is this reply. Now black wins the pawn, and actually black is totally out of danger, and it's probably white is in trouble here. Up the exchange and up a pawn. There are no real threats. That's why he didn't play knight d5. But when I'm saying that execution was off, he misses the right move. Force the queen away and then play this, and then you come into d5. That's crushing attack, right? I mean, fork, and then next you take with the queen and you go in your diagonal. This is just crushing. White is winning. Oh, miss d7. See, Garry Kasparov didn't used to miss things like this. So I'm thinking, okay, this young player, maybe he's a little bit out of his element playing this kind of attacking chess all forward. Takes a chance and takes risks, and the risk pays off. The opponent makes a mistake and still cannot put the game away. If there was one thing there about Kasparov and I mean, I don't know. I think on the larger extent it can be said about all great players. It's not like every position they had in every game they were winning or better. Sometimes they had to go through tough times and they had to make an effort, what I call muscling the game into your favor. But it would take one mistake from their opponents and that's it. They would put the game away. I didn't notice it in this game. I didn't see it. We come from same city and same country. Korchnoi, love him or hate him, was an amazing player and personality. Amazing player, yeah. I don't know, just don't, I don't want to talk about Korchnoi. Just simply, I don't want to talk about him. Can I please not talk about Korchnoi? Yeah, so he played knight b5. That was far from convincing. Anyway, so he won this game. Nonetheless, White won this game. Apparent won, but it wasn't convincing. So I thought, okay, maybe. Let's see. So he's playing the tournament of his life, the young career. Then I go to the next game. From the winning streak that started, I believe, in round 3. I mean, it's a tightly contested tournament, so you don't get to score 8 out of 9 over there. Then I got to this game, and I look at this position. He's playing another young player, much lesser known, this guy, Vavulin. And I look at this position. There was a Najdorf, kind of modern Najdorf, when pawns get exchanged in the center. There is no pawn attack on the opposite sides of the board, but White possesses the bishop pair. And looking at this position after 22 moves, White has a large advantage. So our hero, Russia's new hope, Grigory Aparin, finds himself in a bad position after 22 moves. Now, how to respond? The knight's under attack. If he goes there, then I assume knight c5. Hitting this, possibly e6, so you go back again. I don't know, rook d1, there. Black probably goes to the endgame. Stands so poorly in this endgame, man. It's a disaster, right? We have the Catalan bishop and this bishop, the bishop pair, the knight on c5. All it takes now from White to... Okay, there is no even bishop g4 because the pawn on b7 will be lost. Okay, we can even start going forward right away. Okay, is Black lost here? Maybe not, but he's in a bad way. This is a Russian higher league. I don't know, 2 weeks ago, a week ago. I mean, look at them. So, alright, so the tournament situation is... Yeah, it's 2.5 out of 3, right? It's in round 4. It's in big trouble. How does Aparin respond? He plays a crazy move, really, bishop d5. I mean, this move, he probably loses by force. But what it does, it forces the opponent to calculate some variations and play precise moves. Once again, I'm not really that much familiar with Aparin's style, but it didn't seem to me that he was like this. I mean, maybe that's something new, some kind of newfound strategy, that belief in himself that he has now. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, Bishop d5 he played. White played knight c5, and then I mean, goodness, what to do. If you take, then takes back, knight's under attack. You return to the center, but you barely guarding f6, right? On that check, winning the queen. So what if? Well, knight cannot go away, knight f6, so white wins material. Huh? Okay, so there is no going back, so Black plays this ridiculous check. Pieces are misplaced, but... And the knight is under attack. White's got everything centralized. So he plays bishop c4. I mean, honestly, if you're a white here, right? I mean... What more do you want? So the opponent gives up 2 minor pieces for a rook. I mean, the rooks are on open files, of course, so you need to look out for tactics, but when you eliminate the minor pieces like this, what can Black possibly do? I mean, these rooks, they cannot break through. The bishops stop them. It is probably near winning for white. I mean, we're talking 2 bishops for a rook. Somehow, Vaburin thought it was not enough. Okay. Went for more. He went this move and now knight d4. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Black's aiming at that fork on e2. How much would he gotten out of this? The idea is queen h6, right? To pick off the bishop. But then there is this. Well, if Black takes the white bishop on d6, he's gonna lose his bishop right here on e2. Looks like white is near winning, so a great advantage. Yeah, aggressive play, but no. I mean, I'm trying to understand, you know, like, suppose you... No, right, so there are a lot of guys with... you know, they learn the game. No, they obviously have some talent. It's always been a problem, like, how to develop. I mean, what do you do? So you... Okay, you have some understanding of the game, you work on your openings, you have a good coach, you study the endgame and all this, and then... Alright, generally speaking, you'd probably improve, but... No, improving is just not enough, so you'll improve, like I improved. And then you become a grandmaster at the age of 34. Okay, well, it was different times, and I didn't expect anything from anybody, so it was okay with me. But if you're a young player, then you need to get much better and much faster. Not even much better, you know, like much higher rated. If you don't get the kind of invitations that the young Carlson would get, or the young Giri, how are you gonna, eventually gonna fade away. It's almost like you're getting one invitation or two and everybody waits for your misstep. Once you have one bad tournament, they say, see, didn't I tell you, this guy is really not good. And then off you go and you disappear. Particularly for Russian players, it happened with some of them. Nepomniachtchi did this, and Andreikin. There was this guy Vityugov. Vityugov's Nakamura age. Nepomniachtchi and Andreikin are 26 years old. They're almost like total has-beens, right? Now, okay, we know that Nepomniachtchi is still pretty good in Rapid and Blitz, but no. As far as contenders, World Championship material, well, they're finished. It's almost like you have to make this period when you fight against your peers as short as possible, right? So you need to beat them, and you do it like Kasparov did. Won a couple of scholastic championships in the Soviet Union, and then, well, that's it. One qualification tournament for World Youth. Didn't even win it, finished second to Yusupov. And then off to next level. It's always important for a young player to step up and go to the next level. You can't just, once he starts spinning his wheels and meeting with same people again and again, his game will not improve. What do you think happened to this kid Wei? At the end of 2014, I played him. He was what? Not even 16 years old. Played great in Las Vegas, and then he gained a lot of rating points. And a year ago, he was 2700. Then, maybe he didn't get invitations. Yeah, Tomaszewski is the same thing. Tomaszewski is older. He's the same age as Vityugov, at Nakamura's age. So that's 29 now. I don't see it in Tomaszewski. No, he's a serviceable grandmaster, but no. I don't think so. Well, you can bet $100 on Karyakin, because, with Karyakin it's a different thing, Karyakin got some people sort of investing in him. There was sponsorship, there was some kind of motivation behind it, and I gotta tell you, Karyakin answered the call. Maybe his game is not really more impressive than Nepomniachtchi's or Tomaszewski's even was, but he got this fighting qualities, and he's able to win tournaments. He has a track record of winning when it counts. He finished ahead of Magnus twice in those Norway chess tournaments. Won 2 of those. Won that World Cup, incredible comebacks, and then won the candidates when nobody expected. There is something on Karyakin's side, yeah. I don't know. No, it can only be sorted out in New York. Ivanchuk, yeah, Silverado, that's Deadwood, South Dakota. Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to sound categorical, and these guys, they can still have a lot of good tournaments ahead of them. But I'm thinking if somebody like Tomaszewski or Vityugov could not stay with Nakamura all these years, already for 10 years, Nakamura was just way ahead of them, maybe 12 years. What makes you think they're gonna make a run now? I see no reason for them to do this. They remain same players. Tomaszewski somewhat, I think, improved his game, and it showed in last year when they had the FIDE Grand Prix tournaments, but ultimately he failed to qualify for the candidates. He had qualification well in hand. He needed just a reasonable result in the last tournament, and which was in Russia, and he didn't. So Nakamura and Caruana finished ahead of him. Aparin, okay, so what's Aparin doing? So he's just now or never. This is how it seems to me he played this tournament, now or never. But okay, this is higher league, like, who cares? There are some younger players. Have you ever heard of Alexei Gaganov or Shamoyev or whatever? They played in this. And Dubov played last year. And they never show anything in those tournaments. I mean, if anything, that the guys that have good showing there are actually second tier 30-year-old players like Yevgeny Nair. We're going to have this guy playing in Dortmund. I'm talking about the Premier Championship. Young guys to hold back, and I hope that for Aparin's sake, I hope he doesn't repeat the same mistake. Aparin has absolutely nothing to gain from a 50% solid result in the upcoming Russian Premier League Championship. Even if he makes a draw with Kramnik and Karyakin and Svidvar and beats Grishuk and loses to Nepomniachtchi, I'm just guessing who's going to play there. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to make any impact, and nobody's going to notice. Yeah, another kid. Somebody had to qualify, right? His only chance, is to make a huge performance. Well, I don't know if it's possible. Does it have it in him? But if he doesn't try, like this, it's almost like that the young players now absolutely have to distinguish themselves in a big way. Being a good around solid player, I mentioned these guys, and so, where are they? So in some ways, it was probably the right strategy, and the opponent, I don't know. No, well, this is maybe a little bit too much. I know he's looking to win this night. I know he's setting up some kind of bishop h7, and no, well, there is a good move. There is a good move, but all in all, the calculations weren't there. Now, this was not easy to find, right? If he takes, that's the same thing. So what he does, he moves the knight over there, and then takes. How is that different? No, the difference is in this line. Somehow in this situation, you can see that the knight has to protect the bishop. So playing on this tactics. And I believe that black comes out okay from all this. The head. Silverado. Deadwood. Okay. Yeah, well, White created this problem for himself, of course, and he tried to solve it and play this move knight takes b7. So he's attacking the rook and protecting that bishop, but he leaves the other bishop unprotected. And now, pretty good play there, pretty good play. Rook c8, it's difficult to play a quiet move like this, but that's the right move. So he saves the rook, and now he's on that bishop on e4. The opponent plays this. His logic is that he wants to trade everything, right? And then this knight is dead meat. And indeed white would be winning. But a very good answer. A good recognition of tactical patterns. As I said, not a genius play, but no, done at the right moment and with enough determination. That's what does. That's what does it, Now, the queen obviously protects e2, but that's secondary importance. This is the most important thing. This check. Possibly this was the only way to handle this. Down the whole rook. But hitting this guy, hitting the queen that must protect e5. It's a little bit of confusion here. I'm not quite sure if black is winning here, maybe not. He didn't find it, of course. He did this. And now a typical Sicilian counter-attack execution. Nice. Rook c1. That's really a nice one. Perhaps White still had some hopes here because of knight d6 and the unprotected rook on a8, but this really puts the game out of reach. Okay, there are mates here. Bishop this. That is mate. He did a different mate. Doesn't matter which mate you do as long as it's mate. Yeah. Okay, lucky. I don't know. How is it possible that Russia hasn't been able to produce a world championship contender for quite a bit of time? I mean, Karyakin. No, right, so of course he was born in Ukraine and was what was then Ukraine, the Crimea, and but it's purely Russian community, and I mean everybody speaks Russian around those parts. But anyway, and he moved to Moscow before the events with the coup over there in Kiev and installment of a new government and all these problems or whatever. So that was way before that. But okay, anyway, suppose you give Russia credit for Karyakin. Okay, whatever. But is that all? I mean, can Aparin be the next guy? I don't know really. It is early to tell. I'll be keeping an eye on him, how he plays in the Premier League tournament. I don't know who's going to be there, and I don't know when it's going to be held. I assume after the Olympiad. Yeah. I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm not really that optimistic from what I saw in Aparin's chess. Actually, I like his opponent in the next game. I liked his chess. He's slightly older, Fedoseev. Has been playing consistently. Okay, that's too far anyway. I just showed a critical moment here. So this is round 5. So these two guys, I think they shared the lead. Or maybe Fedoseev was half a point behind. Well, yeah, what changed? I gotta tell you what changed. Okay, well, think of Soviet Union of those times, 60s and 70s and the 80s. The Iron Curtain, so it kept these two economies completely separate from one another. There was this official exchange rate, where you would get, I don't know, 66 kopecks, for $1, but in reality, the black market rate was more like, I think 4 rubles or $1. So the difference is like, 6 times. And more importantly is that Western goods, particularly consumer electronics and some, clothing items, well, they really cost so much in rubles, on the black market that a lucky guy, a chess player, that's what basically all these guys do. And once again, coming to Korchnoi, okay, well, it is hard to explain, and it may come across as some kind of I don't know. It's not even envy, it's long gone, Yeah, I detested these people who basically, whatever they were, but the whole life of theirs was to travel abroad, well, more as often as possible, but at least once or twice a year, and bring a lot of this consumer stuff that their wives then would sell, for a lot of money. And I don't know, these guys, I don't know, I never liked really these great chess players, that simply because I saw their position there, their social status and their privileged position in the Soviet society of those days. I mean, it's hard for me to get over it. Just because I understand they did that probably others would do in their place, but it doesn't matter. Others maybe would, but they did. I mean, fighting for those otherwise meaningless tournaments, go abroad, make some money and come back and then basically like what, they didn't really do anything, right? I mean, they didn't have to go to work. Well, they didn't teach younger players. Sometimes they would give a name to Petrosian school. I don't know if anybody saw Petrosian over there. There are some masters working there, teaching some kids. I mean, that's maybe the reason why I don't really want to talk about these guys. I'm really happy, that third generation is gone and that those times are gone, but no, this is basically what it was. So that just the very fact that a chess player could make a jump to this higher strata of the society, would make him a special person. Now, I guess it's not happening now. Yeah, you can be a good player, a Fedoseev or a Parin. Maybe you get lucky and you win $10,000 in one tournament or 15, but it's not really a big deal. It's not gonna make you a Michael Jordan of in your society. It's nothing really special. So therefore, maybe they just don't have this much motivation, as if you wish, to really become really good players. Maybe that's why they get distracted, and I hear, okay, this guy not sure wants to go back to school. It was impossible to imagine, like anybody in Korchnoy's position, in the 1960s, having any kind of desire to go to school and become a regular working Steve. It would be insane, when he had the potential to become what he became, simply in the sense of the earning power, and the social position. And right now, chess does not enjoy this social status, not because Russians love chess less than the Soviets did. They probably still play the game and they follow the news. It's simply because of open borders and the different economic realities. It just doesn't provide the successful chess player with this great exclusive position. Or just imagine, I mentioned Michael Jordan, imagine if this whole thing, fell apart, right? They called the NBA, which is artificially supported. Well, I know that most of the arenas, the regular season games are empty. Where does the money come from, to pay a guy, who averages 8 minutes per game and 2.5 points and 2 rebounds per game, pay them $10 million a year? It's really not normal. Imagine if this whole house of cards falls down. Then we'd say, that now basketball players are not as good as they used to be. No, because instead of making $10 million a year, they would be doing the same thing, maybe for 100,000. Well, chess was artificially elevated, but mainly because of those realities, economic realities. Now, no less artificial as the major league sports, I believe, are artificially elevated, way above where they should be. I really, I like sports, I'm sort of a sports fan, but I just cannot have one validation, why a no-name guy, we don't even remember their name, should be making, I don't know, $5 or $10 million a year without being an impact player. So that's, to me, it's some sort of a higher end welfare. Top women players fare worse than the... No, at least they have something, like it seemed to me about female players that this whole thing was dead in the water 20 years ago. There are absolutely nothing there. Even the Women's World Championship match. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. Well, then there are, of course, we question how many chess players do we need? Garry Kasparov seems to believe that it's enough to have top 10 players. They will play each other over the course of the year 5 or 6 times, and that's enough entertainment. The Russians didn't go down, the rest of the world came up. I don't know. In what sense? I mean, in the sense of... I mean, that the Russians were higher? In what way the Russians were higher than the rest of the world? I don't know. Maybe, I guess it makes sense, but I'm trying to... Yes, I'm thinking, like, okay, well, непомнящий. No, right, this guy, everybody knows that he gives this interviews and says, yeah, look, well, my accomplishments in this world of computer games, and I played these tournaments, and I could make no less money playing computer games. I know next to nothing about the world of competitive computer games. And I understand that probably непомнящий, being a smart guy, he's probably quite good at that. But I don't buy into the stuff that he's, because of his chess playing ability, he's such a genius, he's necessarily going to beat everybody in that computer game. Same with Grishuk, the poker player. I think the reason why these guys did it was simply because they... I mean, I'm sure they're comfortable finances-wise, but they probably... because they didn't think there would be so much make-or-break difference in their life if they improved in chess. I mean, Grishuk became number 2 in the world for a short period of time. But okay, he's out of the picture. I mean, maybe that's the reason why. I don't know, remains to be seen. Something drives Karyakin, something maybe more than just make money and live comfortable life. Maybe he does have a little bit of a drive. We'll see. Remains to be seen. Chess strength. In sense of chess strength. No, I guess, chess became much easier to learn now with computers, and you really don't have to sit there. See, the Russian model was to have these guys beat each other up for years and years, although they were smart enough to shield Karpov and Kasparov from that. But the others would bash each other, and then somehow the strong will survive. Now, the strong will wear down and become weak. Well, this beating up on each other year after year produces nothing but parity. And the parity was good enough probably to be the second-tier players, accompany Karpov to yet another Amsterdam tournament where Karpov would win it, and you allowed to finish third, and pocket your whatever, enough money to buy a VCR and sell it for, 2 years salary of an engineer or whatever. I mean, I understand, it's all business, it was business, but it's certainly now it's not good enough. If you go through this growing tournaments as they play in Russia, they play all these knockout tournaments. Knockout tournaments means elimination, means it's rapid and blitz games, and your nervous system will wear out, and then, then what? How do you expect to compete with Magnus Carlsen and Anish Giri? Well, I don't know, so I hope that the next star there manages to avoid this fate. And all the same, would not become too cozy and too happy and start wasting his time playing computer games or poker. We will see. I think chess is as popular globally as it ever was. Obviously, it does have its niche, and it's probably not gonna ever, attract billion followers, But come to think of that, it's not really needed. I mean, right now, well, we still have this chess community, which numbers I guess in millions. And now we have the internet to follow chess events, and I'm happy to have this platform where I can sit there and yap away and keep company with you guys. I think that's the greatest time for chess. Now, As far as competition goes, no, well, I think we're about to enter some interesting transition period. I don't see anybody bringing FIDE back to any kind of respectability. I think Kirsan is about to resign and be replaced, but replaced with whom? Some kind of insider, corrupt as Prashvili, Makropolis. That would be pathetic. As far as a guy, a uniter, not a divider, can only come from former chess players. Now, Garry Kasparov wanted to become FIDE president. It didn't happen, and it couldn't have happened because of what he is. Somebody else? Kramnik. Is Vladimir Kramnik the only hope to redeem International Chess Federation in the eyes of chess players and sponsors? And maybe. Anand would be great, but Anand I don't think would ever be interested. Oh, no, you don't put me in any kind of position of power. No, don't. No. I'm thinking, yeah, and if not, then basically Magnus is just gonna say, nah, I don't want to sit around and wait for 2 years for the next guy. It's boring. I want to play. He already said that. It's entirely possible that Magnus just says, I'm not interested. Whatever. We may be witnessing the last World Championship match. They're already not the same as they were. They're too short, right? I mean, they don't give you the same feel as the grand battles of the past. I mean, literally, it was interesting to watch Carlsen Anand when it was played, but those are hardly landmark events. And maybe that's because that Carlsen kind of came and he was just so much better than these guys are now. They're a little too old. And from his generation, no. Nobody could mount a real challenge, but we will see. As I said, Noel, I'm glad, that you worship these guys, Tal, Petrosian, and Kochno, I simply look at this little bit from a different perspective, Noel, I mean, I don't know. From my perspective, I simply cannot have any warm feelings about any of these guys, possibly excluding Spassky. I don't know. They just don't seem human beings to me, from my own recollections. No, they are somewhat higher, demigods, if you wish. And demigods and gods, they didn't treat people very well, in ancient Greece. No, they didn't treat them well. The humans basically were slaves of the gods, right? No, okay, anyway, that's a different discussion. So, yeah, to finish on a chess note. No, right, look, this position, Aparin's white, so he has wide open repertoire, he played d4. And this guy, Fedoseev, is higher rated, somewhat more accomplished, and also young, maybe a couple years older only. And he feels obliged to win this game. And he plays this move, right, g5. Well, the problem with Aparin, right, so if Aparin now has a credible result in this Premier League and then he gains another 100 rating points, becomes 2670 or whatever, 2680. And then he comes back to play the same guys next year, and they're going to play g5 against him. So he sees the moment now, but it's only going to come once. Yeah, he played well. He played this move. That was a good move. A pawn sacrifice. Yeah, black couldn't take right away because capture and then loses the knight. So he had to do this move before. So white started mixing it and making tactical threats, and that became difficult. I believe this move was losing somehow. I think this is the line I saw, and now the queen is tied down to the defense of the rook on e8. Yeah, but I understand, but it's sort of like when Tal played positions like this. No, okay, well, I mean, he had to create, right? He had to sacrifice. Here, basically, white was forced into this by black's desire to take over the game, which manifested in the move g5. This is what I'm saying, you know, that those things, they don't last forever, right? They say that players make their own luck. This is true, of course, but I mean, your opponents, no, they also learn. And after a while, no, like Li Chao playing Carlsen for the first time and getting beaten, quite a famous game. Then they meet again in Norway chess this year. Li Chao has white, trades on d5 and the Slav, and just cynically steers the game to a draw and steals, I don't know, Magnus's 2 rating points. I mean, you gotta have, you know, some kind of cooperation from your opponent. And here, of course, Aparin received it, so Queen e2, and maybe the knight had to go to d6, but, well, even more here. No, right, so white has done well here, right? White's keeping the pressure on, the knight is on f5, but now, well, it's hard to break through black's position. And now if black plays this move, right? No, okay, they say, though, you take. No, yeah, alright, so I can play rook e6. Pieces get exchanged, and black only needs to get the queens off, and then he's not even gonna be worse. He'll probably equalize this game. Look what Fedosеев did instead. No, this is insane, really. He wants to keep the pawn on e4, and for that he sacrifices his queen. No, that's too ambitious. And now white just gets a crushing attack that plays itself. You can find this game, you know, so Aparin won. It's not what you expect, right? You probably thought, oh, I will be all gushing over, oh, how great Grigory Aparin is to win the higher league championship at not even 18 years old. Well, I think maybe he turned 18. And a great future for him, and a future contender for world championship. No, maybe. Haven't really seen a whole lot of signs for that. I think both Nepomniachtchi and Andreikin, they looked way more talented at that time, you know, which was, no, 7 years ago, than the current generation of young Russian grandmasters. No, Aparin is 18 years old, yeah. No, well, okay, let's wish him best of luck, and in the meantime, questions. Same way checkers were solved. But in 64, you know what, the checkers were pretty much solved, you know, before computers. You know that on 64 square board, they already had to change some rules and introduce some randomization into the game, even before computers. There are so many draws there. Checkers on 64 squares, there was just a forced draw, if you're allowed to play your opening. From 1980s, if not 1970s. That's why the 100 square checkers, international checkers, much more complex. So I don't know. Chess solved, you know, by what? A 32-man table base. Winston Smith, it's not gonna happen, not in our lifetimes. It's impossible. The computing power that's required for that, I mean, it's beyond belief. I mean, you can't do it on current level of technology. It's impossible. You have to, I don't know. Somebody said, you know, to solve chess, you have to burn our sun down. if you use our traditional conversion of energy into computer power. No, we need to make a giant leap, before chess is solved that way. As far as more practical application, looking at openings deeper, I don't know. People now already started turning away from this. The impact of computers on modern chess is lessened rather than increased in the past 5 years because of the chess players, the kind of what with their feet. They just all walked away from poison pawn Najdorfs and the anti-Moscow gambits. Magnus Carlsen never played this and never will. So therefore, it doesn't really matter. Nobody analyzes this. I guess almost nobody plays this first lines anymore. So we're getting a treat of kind of just games that played by best players. They have a little bit of monotony over there. There is too much of this anti-Berlin D3. I know there are complaints about this, but somehow I believe that chess will survive. And another question is that maybe indeed Garry Kasparov is right. And somehow we can do it this way. Like, okay, so we treat our top players, as kings and give them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars and all that. And we keep a small group, 10 to 20 players, couple of dozen maybe. And for the others, they have to ride the bus, their minor league chess. And then if they make it to the big, so like Richard Rapport about to do, then more power to them. But there is really no need to support the entire pyramid of chess players. One thing I noticed here, like in the past, what would 25 to 30-year-old grandmaster do if he somehow wasn't happy with his chess and chess progress? They would go to school, get a job, right? Or maybe they'll get hired in the corporate world because of their being geniuses, because they're chess players, so they become traders like Ilya Gurevich or David Norwood. I don't know. Okay. It's different now. These guys, they basically stop playing because, there is nowhere for me to play. And they teach. I didn't see that many people teaching, in their 20s. Now they're barely out of high school and they already advertise for chess lessons. And they record some videos and the field is getting real competitive. Well, great to be the consumer of this great wealth of chess. Not sure about the quality of the product, but it's up to you to decide. You guys vote with your dollar. I don't know. It's just a fact I'm stating. Great artist of the past. Should chess just go to rating system, stop with world championships? Yeah, that's what Magnus is talking about. Magnus likes knockout, concept of knockout tournaments. He just wants more money there and not necessarily this tying it down to some silly world championship. He knows who world champion is. He's the best player. Well, calculate ratings and I don't think the world really needs chess really needs a world championship. I agree with Magnus. I think the concept is dated. That's what Kirsan wanted to do. He wanted to have this yearly world championships, but the guys who won it were not supposed to be world champions in the sense of Fischer or Botvinnik. They were world champions of that year, current year. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, that was maybe 20 years too early. They didn't get any support, obviously, from Karpov or Kasparov. These guys only wanted recognition and and benefits for themselves. But Magnus is different. Magnus doesn't really care, and Magnus wants to do the right thing. So, all right, let's see one last grand, world championship match in New York City. Maybe Carlson squeaks by Karyak in a small margin, and then he makes an announcement at the closing ceremony that this is it, and I am not interested in playing for world championship anymore. I just want to play tournaments, and I follow me, follow the leader. Okay, guys, thank you very much. It was a nice talk, and I guess I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Yeah, about. I think so. Is that 2 weeks? Yeah, the 21st. Yep, 2 weeks. Bye.